Welcome to Mandemic Mondays. Each week we'll be reviewing, debating the latest Netflix release, and we'll be chatting about whatever else people are doing to stay sane during these crazy times. I am Megan Parlen.
And I am Mandy Kaplan. This is the only podcast hosted by two friends who agree on almost everything.
I know, you've totally switched the narrative since you started. I'm sorry I agree with you on everything, but maybe this episode will be different.
This episode is going to kick ass. We are discussing a film this week called Monster.
We are discussing Monster. This movie was actually supposed to be called All Rise, but they changed it to Monster for better or worse because it's confusing to have another monster.
There's a TV show called All Rise now, so maybe that's why.
Oh, so there's no winning in any of this. So we reviewed Monster on Netflix. I will take a crack at summarizing this. You are so good at that that I'm going to try.
Megan.
Woo! Here we go.
20 seconds on the
Monster. Okay. You love them short. It's a drama, and it is it's centered around a young aspiring filmmaker named Steve. He's a very sweet, kind kid from a good family. He's African American, living in Harlem, and he gets caught up in a crime. He's accused of playing lookout for a bodega stick-up that turns deadly, and he is put on trial for it. In a nutshell.
You nutshelled the hell out of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, this movie feels like it should be based on a true story, but it isn't at all. It's a completely fictitious story.
Right. It's based on a novel.
Correct. By Walter Dean Myers. The storytelling was interesting because he's a filmmaker, the character,
right.
Steve Harmon. So he's doing a lot of voiceover, and it's very intentionally, like his voiceover is like cut to opening sequence, the credits roll. Like he's narrating it like it's his screenplay of his life, which I loved as a device.
Right. And I thought, maybe this whole thing is going to be a screenplay. Who knows?
And then it just ended up, for me, getting bogged down it felt like a very intense episode of Law and Order. I think you likened it to Boston Legal. It just never hit the depths that you want a film like this to be.
No, I totally agree. And I mean, the story itself is heartbreaking, and it did stay with me. I thought about it a lot afterwards, but ultimately the ride of watching it was so disjointed because there were these glimmers of avant-garde filmmaking or interesting devices and storytelling that never really played out in a consistent way. It was so disjointed and mismatched, and it had this astounding cast.
Yes.
I mean, such great actors, but you could hear the words on the page. It's almost like they were terrible because it just, the writing wasn't quite there. They weren't set up for success to shine.
I agree. It was directed by Anthony Mandler.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll instantly love him because my name is in his last name, in case anybody didn't get that.
He's done a lot of music videos, Rihanna. He's pretty hot right now. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. One of my first questions for you, this was a Sundance premiere in 2018. I'm sure it got bought and then never got released because of the pandemic. And so now it's on Netflix. When you see a Sundance selection, what does that do for you? How does that change your expectation going in?
It just sort of, it makes it seem like this is a hidden gem that rises above all of the crap, and it's going to be a certain level of quality.
That's how I feel.
This wasn't.
No, it gives me like a trust factor. And then I felt baited and switched because it really didn't live up to the emotional depth of a Sundance movie.
And it might have been a good novel. I don't know, because there were the story itself, I had issues with. So I don't know how the novel was, but it seemed like the movie really didn't take advantage of whatever it could mine from the novel. It just sort of skipped over a lot of interesting things and made it it just kind of spoon-fed you the story.
And one pervasive theme for me was parenthood and how these parents deal. And I will say that when we cut to his family life, it is so over the top. It is like,
oh yeah,
everybody's perfect. Mom is well dressed and sipping wine while cooking and having
painting and
banter with her sons. And then the sons are, it's just too much. It's
too much.
It was like, get over yourselves. Nobody's family life is that good. The parents are just supportive and lovely and good looking. And I rolled my eyes every time we were in the house with the family.
Yes.
But then
so many cliches.
Yeah. Then he's arrested and he's in custody and I guess charges have been filed. And Dad goes to visit him in jail. And there is a speech, Pete, at 25:40 that I found very powerful.
When you were born, I thought of all the scenes of your life. You playing football just like I did. You going to college just like I did. Dating a beautiful girl. Someone just like your mother. I even imagined being mad at you for a bunch of stupid shit. Things any kid does. But I never saw anything like this. I don't know, it just never crossed my mind. It never crossed mine either.
So that's the dad saying, you know, we have an image of what parenthood will be like and what our kids will be like. And this isn't ever what I expected, to be sitting here in a visiting room with my kid and he's in jail. And I liked the way the movie dealt with the parents. They definitely doubted his innocence, but stood by him. You know, it wasn't that blind, like, not my baby.
Yes. And that anxiety that I'm sure every African-American family feels just being the color that they are, that no matter how they do life, there's always that chance they're going to get caught up in the system, and that fear, and just telling him, pull up your pants, and, you know, don't go through the park, and just, she's watching the news because, you know, she wants to know who's wrapped up in this latest crime. And just that anxiety was very profound.
I have often, in a weird way, because my child, Casey, is perfect in every way, so I don't have to worry about this. But I've often wondered, I guess because I like true crime so much, like, what would I do if the police came a knocking and said, your son is being accused of a horrible crime? I think about that type of thing a lot. Do you ever? Am I crazy?
I take a vacation. It's like free childcare during a pandemic.
Yeah, that is one way to do it.
No, look, the night of brought up a lot of that for me too. Not even just for my own children, but even for ourselves. Like, what if you were caught up in the system, and, you know, what a nightmare. And every step you take could land you in, you know, your life could be over.
Right. And the night of, let's review that one instead, because that dealt with it so well. And has your boyfriend in it.
Oh, my hall pass.
Yeah. But that's what I wanted this movie to be, and this never got there.
I know. And it's unfair to put that on this movie, because that was such a brilliant, you know, show, and it dealt with different issues. But yeah, this just like doesn't compare, and it could have.
Yeah. I thought there were missed opportunities. Like, if we are living on the outside and he's on the inside, I wanted to see how life went on the outside. I wanted to see, like, what the brother had to say. He has maybe a 8-year-old brother, 9-year-old brother. Never a scene where the brother is saying, is he coming home? Did he do it, Mom? Nothing. We had no effect on the brother, apparently.
Yeah.
And then we get a lot of glimpses into his life at film school with Tim Blake Nelson playing a normal character. What? Never seen that. I was like, oh, this guy's going to turn out to be a whack job. And turns out he wasn't. And I thought, I want to see class when Steve is already in jail. And how does the class handle the loss of him? And are some students questioning his innocence while others are defending him? I thought that would be really interesting. We didn't get to see the world outside without him, except his perfect parents hugging each other.
And when we did see the world with him, if you're going to use this device that he's a filmmaker and he looks through the world with his own aperture, play that up. Like, let's see from his POV what it's like to be the defendant. But it was all shot so crime, Boston legal, like I was saying. I didn't even feel like I was in his head, which was such a missed opportunity because he's supposedly this like filmmaker who's, and I will say like one of the scenes that I felt was refreshing that I wanted more of was at Pete 46 minutes, 25 seconds when they're playing chess with the older man in the park.
What did he achieve, even though he didn't trust?
I mean, I guess he found out you can't trust nobody out there, man.
No, that's part of life.
Man, all the time, man. Can you stop dropping jewels on us and play the damn game already?
Do you know that if you wanted to get to the top, and let's say you found a tiger, and he says, I'm going to ride that tiger up to the top. Nobody's going to bother me. He mounted this tiger. When they got to the top, he wasn't there.
Where was the people?
The dude was inside the tiger. Mistrust.
How was he inside the tiger?
The tiger ate his ass. You can't ride a tiger. He trusted the tiger, didn't he?
Clearly that was improvised and he and the older man was speaking authentically, and to see the main character Steve's like face light up when he's filming, and felt so real. I wanted more of that, and that never played out. And if this kid, sees the world as a filmmaker, like I just never believed him.
It's funny. I didn't think that scene was improvised at all. You felt strongly. You said clearly it was. It didn't feel improvised to me. It was shot with such a heavy hand of like Steve filming too close and backing up. And the reason I liked that scene, and I liked it very much, Steve gets wrapped up. Oh, I'm not going to remember the character name, but his buddy on the streets, who is one of the masterminds behind the robbery. Steve really likes this guy, and this guy is a hardcore gang member, ghetto character, and they don't seem to have anything in common, yet there is a deep connection between these two guys. And that scene playing chess with the older gentleman was the chance to humanize that character, not Steve, but the friend. I wish I could remember his name.
King? Wasn't his last name King?
That was King's boy. That was King's boy. Yeah, King was very charming in that scene, and he like appreciated this old guy playing chess, and he had a sense of humor, and he was, it just, for me, that showed me why Steve was drawn to him. And I thought that scene was really strong for that reason.
Right. Yeah. Also true. Which brings me to, so I'll admit I read a couple of reviews just to sort of see what the reception was like. And one point that a reviewer made, a failure of the story was that the message at the end is that Steve is not a monster. King is a monster. The attorney actually says those words. And that message to me is a failure because it's perpetuating the stereotype that, there are, like, this is what a monster looks like. It's not talking about the system that has failed this poor child who did do the crime. And that to me was a shame to walk away with that feeling like, this is an African-American kid and he's not a monster because this is, what not a monster looks like.
Right. Unfortunately, this is a terrible thing to say. By that point, my eyes were rolling and I wasn't so into it anymore. So I wasn't gripped by the ending.
I mean, yeah, that's where I was appreciating the movie a little bit, is because I was relieved that Steve didn't get convicted and that signaled that the movie was resonating on some level, if I were to forgive the poor execution of it.
Let's delve into some of those poor execution points, because I just felt that there were many of them, and that they would have been easily tweaked to make this a more powerful, believable story. One of my biggest pet peeves, surprise, I have a pet peeve. I'm usually so easygoing, but in stories, and I am not a lawyer, I'm not sure how this actually works, but the lawyer, it's at an hour and 12 minutes and 11 seconds. So you know it's getting towards the end of the movie. It's the end of the trial. Brand new idea. You're going to have to take the stand. That's got to just be a movie trope, right? That doesn't really happen in real life, where the lawyer just comes up with it and then, so tomorrow you're going to take the stand. Surprise!
Yeah. I mean, I think so much about the courtroom in so many shows and movies is really, I've heard that attorneys are not even allowed to like pace and walk in front of the witness. Like they have to stand behind their desk.
Really?
So, yeah. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard that. So there goes any authenticity in the courtroom.
You just ruined Inherent the Win for me.
Sorry. That's what ruined it for you?
Yeah. Hey, courtroom dramas. And this one was pretty tropey. There was nothing about it that was new. Although I did find it interesting, and I made this observation late in the movie, and then I didn't care to go back and see if I was right. Was everybody only wearing black and white throughout the whole movie in the courtroom?
There was a line in voiceover where he draws attention to the fact that everything was black and white, and there was no gray. And so, yeah, everybody in the courtroom was wearing black or white, but the whole set, the very beautiful courtroom, might I add, I've never seen such a beautiful courtroom, was all gray. And those scenes were very thematic. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, hitting you over the head with it.
That's the thing. Like, are you getting it, people? It's black and white. Are you getting it? Yeah, we got it.
Right.
Yeah. I don't need the lawyer in like a black and white block pattern turtleneck to tell me that that's what we're dealing with here.
But when you're picking up on that theme, are you thinking race, black or white? Or are you thinking, because the other part of this is the ambiguity of, is he really innocent? And that's a gray area, because he did, spoiler alert, he did play a role.
I thought it was both. I thought some art director and the director sat down and then they had that epiphany about, let's make everything black and white. It'll mean this and this. And I felt the filmmaking. I felt their decision, and it felt icky.
And I mean, I must say the color correction was beautiful, even just purely aesthetically in the courtroom, but even in his home life, like the sort of warm rainbowy colors of the home and his parents, like everybody looked beautiful, and just the magic hour sort of Harlem streets. It was pretty.
Yeah. It's interesting. We watched 2 movies in a row, and this is just occurring to me now, that our protagonist was a filmmaker using their iPhone to they saw their world through their iPhones. And I thought the Mitchells did it so much better. She used her iPhone to express herself in all these different creative ways. What I got from Steve Harmon was that he knew how to put a grainy effect and do a lot of annoying quick cuts of his girlfriend sweet talking him. That's what I got from Steve Harmon.
Right.
I did not see a visionary filmmaker.
Right. I wanted his talent to be stronger. And then I wanted that to be the thread throughout the film, because there was also a disconnect between his filmmaking, quote unquote, and his voiceover. I mean, it didn't seem like this was the same artist, you know. His voiceover was just so narrative and slow, but his filmmaking was very TikTok and grainy.
The voiceover was like the strongest part to me. Things were phrased really well in his voiceover. He had one speech about how teenagers commit crimes every hour and no one says anything, whether it's like jaywalking or loitering or speeding in their cars, or he's like, think about it. As a teenager, every teenager is breaking the law all day, every day. I was like, that's a very interesting observation and an interesting way to defend, like, well, where do you cross the line? all I did was go into a bodega and come out and wink at my friends.
Right.
But that's all in the voiceover. That wasn't really how the movie presented itself.
Yeah. So those lines came from the novel, the better written piece. I was very disappointed because anytime you have a chance to tell this story and celebrate African-American artists and filmmakers, it's just a shame when it's not done well.
It is a shame. And his parents were played by Jeffrey Wright, who's a giant in the theater world, and Jennifer Hudson, who looks 14 years old. She looked so stunning, but
so good, but too young.
Too young. And I thought she reverted back to her Sex and the City bad acting days. I thought she was terrible in this movie.
Yeah, she did stand out as feeling very actor 101.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think anybody was given a chance to really shine their talents in this movie, unfortunately.
The lead was good, though. Calvin Harrison Jr. He was very good. No?
He was very good. He is very good in other things he's in. I just think that even he couldn't transcend the weaknesses of the writing and the directing, and I could see him working too hard. And I don't think he meant to.
Yeah, agreed. Before we give our manned jobs, I want to say that at the very end of the movie, when they're really recreating the crime finally, the sign on the front of the bodega says, "Do not enter with a mask or face covering," because it's in Harlem and, right, well,
it actually said a hoodie or a mask.
A hoodie or a mask. And I just thought that was so interesting pre-COVID. All signs now say cannot enter without a mask. And this said, do not enter with a mask. You won't be allowed in. And it just jumped out at me as a fond memory of pre-COVID times.
Yes, when you commit a crime.
Oh, side note, don't you think crime has probably skyrocketed because people can just say, "Oh, I'm wearing a mask," and walk in and rob a bank?
I thought about that.
Do you want to rob a bank together?
It's so easy. I have so many masks.
So easy. All right, let's figure that out.
We'll make a movie about it.
We'll have Fabian bail us out of jail and represent
us.
We'll call
it Manster.
Oh, there you go. All right, time for our manned jobs.
Okay.
Coming off such a high last week. Oh.
You want me to go first?
I don't know. I'm like 2.5 man jobs.
Oh, okay, good. I was going to say 2 man jobs. And to me, that's because it did stay with me and it made me think. And it was a great cast. That's why it's not one or in the blue ball territory.
Not blue ball. There were enough things about it that were well done. But I guess that 2018 Sundance label had me thinking it would be a lot better.
Right. Well, now we know.
Damn you, Sundance. You've done it again.
So, Mandy, I don't know if this is cheating, but I was reading reviews for the movie Monster, like I mentioned, just to kind of
Not cheating, it's showing off.
Yes, I was trying to find a solid review that I could trust of the movie to kind of help inform my own experience with the movie. But I was getting so overwhelmed with so many different reviews out there, and I couldn't tell who was legitimate. It's just a lot of noise out there when it comes to movie reviews.
Yeah. And if you had just gone to Letterboxd, then I could have just told you what to think, which is so much easier, right? Yes. If you used the URL truestory.fm/Mandys, that's Mandys, that'll take you to Letterboxd. And it's like an online forum for movie lovers and the movie community to review films. And that URL that I just gave out, what is it, you ask? It's truestory.fm/Mandys, gets you 20% off upgrading to a pro account or a patron account. So
no way. Yeah. I'm looking at it right now. This seems like a very user-friendly, clear place to go.
It has been called the Goodreads for movies, and I think that's a very accurate analogy. You can do the basic account, and it's great. But if you use that promo code and you upgrade to a pro account, you get rid of third-party ads. You get more options and stats, and you can track films that you've been watching and pin your reviews. And then if you upgrade to the patron account, you get all of that. Plus, it's like fancy. You get your name and lights on the patron page, plus the undying gratitude of everyone at Letterboxd HQ. It is a fun place to go if you love movies. And if you want to shout out to the Mandys, come to Letterboxd.
Thank you. Oh, I wish I knew about this days ago. Thank you.
You're so very welcome. What else have you been doing to stay sane during the pandemic?
So, as you know, I have 2 young children, 5 and 2, almost 2, and I work full time. I'm very tired. So I have been every 6 weeks or so taking what I'm calling sleepcations.
Okay.
Where I book an Airbnb for myself for a night within town, like a mile from my house. I check in as soon as they'll allow me. I order dinner and I get into bed. I eat it, and about 7 o'clock, fall asleep, and I sleep.
Yes.
Till about 7 a.m. the next morning, and I wake up with packets of soy sauce and grains of rice in bed, and I don't care.
Housekeeping might care, honey, but don't worry about it. You do you.
I clean up after myself. I wake up. I can turn on the news and actually hear it. I can take a poop. I can, just be me without anyone asking me for anything. And I love to do it in town. You would wonder like, well, why not go somewhere far away that you can explore? But it's almost like me reclaiming the places that we always go to as a family that I want to enjoy, so I can go alone and do what I imagine in my brain doing when I can't. So I hit all the spots, all the coffee places, and hold a cup of coffee with a hand and not have anybody else handing me things and dropping things.
Yes.
And it's, I would love to do this with my husband and go together, but in these times we have to divide and conquer and take care of ourselves. So I'm a big fan. I highly recommend it.
Yes. That sounds delightful. 7 p.m. though. That's getting into my mom territory.
Yeah. And it's surprising to me because I don't realize it's going to happen until it happens. And I'm like, here we go. I can fall asleep right now. There's no drugs or alcohol involved. It just happens.
That's where you're making a big mistake. You should just get high and drunk and tear that place up.
I've thought about it, but the rest that I get without anything else is so worth it.
Yeah. No, that's a very different kind of sleep. When you sleep with no help in any way, shape, or form, it is a satisfying feeling when you wake up that morning.
Yeah, I need to be refreshed so that I can return to the family and make them see that it was worth it. And I feel a little guilty because my daughter knows now how much I look forward to it, and she gets excited for me, and I feel kind of bad that she's like...
I think that's so important that our kids know that we have our own needs and our own lives.
Yeah.
You don't want them thinking that like, oh, mom's life just revolves around my every need.
Right.
It does a lot of the time. So
yes, I just think that she sees the level of giddiness that I get that she never sees any other time.
Except when you're recording this podcast.
Except that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I highly recommend it. And I'm going on Saturday.
Oh,
and what I do is I message the Airbnb person, the host, and I explain what I'm doing. So I get so much love as a working mom. And
nice.
And not that it's like manifested in any
freebies,
vodka.
Right.
but I just like knowing that they know what I'm up to.
That's great. I would very much like to do that. Very much. But instead, I, on Mother's Day, wanted to and loved going to Baby Goat Brunch in Los Angeles.
Tell me more.
It is a website called feverup.com, which does lots of live events and online events. But if you go to feverup.com and you enter Baby Goat Brunch, you come up on this thing. And I was totally taken. It passed me on social media, and I love animals and I love brunch. So I was completely taken with the idea of baby goats.
Mm-hmm.
We pulled up into a proper functioning ranch in a place called Old Agora, like up in the Calabasas Hills.
Mm-hmm.
And you have no cell service. You leave the grid, you leave life behind. It's horses and land and really special and different. And then we get to the goat pen and the guy says, okay, here's your cup of feed. When you go in, they might be a little jumpy. Go. These were not baby goats. These were aggressive, adult, pregnant, somewhat angry goats. And my poor son, Casey, was like, they're attacking me. Take my food. I don't want the food. And yeah. Again, bait and switched. Sundance. Like I felt a little baited and switched. And I went back to the website to look, and the pictures are all of teeny tiny little baby goats. But they had 2 babies that I'm putting in quotes that you can't see through my microphone.
Mm-hmm.
And the 2 babies, you could pick one of them up and it would let you take a picture with it. And then the other one was like, get away from me. And the rest were aggressive, angry, pregnant adult goats. And I got to say, I loved it. I loved every minute of it, every stinky, dirty, dusty minute of being with the goats. And Sapphire, honey, if you're listening, I'm here. Yep. Oh, there she is. I bonded with Sapphire. We played with the goats. Then we went and had our brunch. And then when we came, he's like, you can go back in if you want after brunch. And we wanted to. Only our family went back in. So it was like much calmer and really special. And I walked back in and Sapphire made a beeline for me. And she wanted to lick my face and just like be my best friend. And so I definitely felt like it was a really special connection. And I mean, you know me well enough to know I just love animals. And I love goat cheese. There was quiche. There were jalapeno poppers stuffed with goat cheese.
I was going to ask.
Yeah.
And you love angry, pregnant anythings.
I do indeed. We were praying one of them would start labor and I could city slickers it and be there to yank those baby
Catch
goats
a
out.
goat.
Yeah, I would have done it. But then as we were having brunch, the farm cat wandered up and jumped up and curled up in Casey's lap. And so he was the happiest. And then when we went to play with the goats after brunch, like the farm sheepdog, I don't know what kind of dog it was. It was so fluffy and sweet that the dog wanted to play with Casey. And by that point, he was a little over the goats. So it was like we just, I don't know, bonded with animals and nature. And then we went for ice cream after because it wasn't a lot of food and not a lot of food Casey would eat. And we get out of the car at the ice cream place and Jer says, oh my God, we stink to high heaven like goat poop. I mean, we were covered in dirt and dust and the stench of goats. So sorry to the city of Calabasas where we went for ice cream after. The same place you took Casey for a date when you came to see my show. Jenny's, yeah.
Well, most of Calabasas has Botox. I don't know how well they can smell anyways.
Oh, does Botox affect your smell? I know COVID does.
Oh, right. Well, hopefully it's not COVID.
Yeah. So that's what I got to do. I got to be one with the goats and I would do it again in a heartbeat. If anybody said to me, that sounds like fun, can I go too? I would take anybody. It's expensive.
Can I go too? Is it expensive?
It is expensive. So it's like a special event thing. It's not like let's just go once a month. But it was lovely.
Did anybody sneeze? Any allergies?
Not that I noticed.
Get revealed? I'm curious.
No, but I do have a COVID tip. I walked by a family trying to take pictures of themselves around their table. And I said, would you like me to take a family picture? And I'll text it to you because you can't hand your phones over during COVID and right. And they were like, oh my God, that's so nice of you. Could we do the same for you?
Creepster.
No. So I took lovely Mother's Day portraits for them and then they took them for us and we texted them to each other. And that is a way to get good family photos during COVID times. Because all our family photos are like me and Casey or Jer and Casey. They're never the three of us together.
Have you been texting him ever since?
I teased him, of course, as we were saying our goodbyes. I was like, I'm going to call you every 5 minutes. And I was so tempted. And I almost texted the family picture of them to my mother-in-law. Like, Happy Mother's Day from us. And then she would have gotten a picture of 3 people she didn't know.
So this is a terrible idea.
It's a
all
wonderful
around.
idea. I love people. I love goats. And I love the book Woman in the Window. And
Oh, yay.
see what I did there?
Can't wait.
See what I did there?
Yes.
I lost you for a second, and then I gotcha. We're going to watch Amy Adams and Julianne Moore. That is like 2 of my favorite actresses ever. In Woman in the Window on Netflix. Everybody's got to watch this one. I think it's going to be...
Thank you. Yes, I'm so excited.
fun and salacious.
I hope it lives
and
up.
I know. Did you read the book?
No.
All right. Well, you have a week. Love you.
All right. Love you too. Bye.
Bye.